Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, we're going to slow stitch a lace collage. Now, I've done a previous video on slow stitching a lace panel, and it was very beautiful and elegant. Today's it has just a slight variation. We're still using lace, and we're using a backing fabric. I take a quilted piece of fabric, and then I choose a beautifully dark colored fabric, just because I like that contrast between the white lace and the dark fabric. Now you can vary this activity however you like by choosing different colored lace, different colored fabric. You get different results. Also, if you use very thin and delicate lace, try and use very thin and delicate thread to make your stitching. If you use thicker crochet lace, well, you can get away with all 6 strands of embroidery floss. So there's lots of variation you can create for this project. I happen to love it because I think the contrast is really striking. So let's get started. So to start our lace collage, I just went and gathered a bunch of lace. I tried to keep it all the same color. So this is just white as opposed to like an off-white or maybe even a colored lace, black or purple or red. I like to use the same color. If you feel comfortable switching colors and using an abundance of colors, by all means do that. It'll make a beautiful result. I just chose lace that had a bunch of different textures and interests. And I chose a bunch of it because I'm not really sure exactly how it's going to end up, but I have a good size backing piece here. This is just some quilted fabric. Now you can do white on white if that was your thing. It's a subtle effect and it can be very elegant, but I'm not going for that today. So I chose a bold color, this beautiful orange, and it's a lovely color. So the first thing I want to do is stitch my orange backing to my piece so that it stays in place nicely. I have some orange embroidery floss here, so I'm just going to sew around the perimeter to hold the orange in place, and it gives me a good start for my piece. So to do that, I like to just hold my backing on top of the orange, and I cut the orange quite large, and then I'll just pin over it. Now I pressed the fabric here and I added a little bit of starch just because I like that effect, but that's not necessary. Line up my pieces back here. And I'll stitch around all the sides, and then we could start the design process. So I have this piece stitched all the way around the perimeter. It's holding it in place. You can see the backing. Now I start the design process. I just like to take my lace pieces and just lay them down and decide if I need to repeat the patterns, if there's some lace that I don't want to use, that type of thing. So I kind of spread it out. Actually, I like that already, but I'm going to do a little more design work to see here. Maybe I'll move this around. Put the butterflies on the bottom here. I'm going to do kind of a plain one. Maybe switch this around. It's just this process of design that's really fun. You could also use your lace back to back to make a thicker piece, and that's kind of an interesting effect. So I think maybe I'll do that. I'll take this here, grab another piece of this lace with the hearts, and make that into a very thick element. Let's slide that down a little. And so really what I'm going for is the contrast between the background and the lace. And I think that's really quite lovely. Slide this a little lower. Maybe I'll repeat this up here. Just like that. So I like the way that looks. So now the next step is to just pin everything in place exactly where I want it. So I'm going to start by stitching around the lace to hold it in place. And I'm just using some quilting thread. I don't want my stitches to show. So I have a very small needle here, and I'll just stitch around holding this lace in place, just tacking it down in enough spots so it stays flush with the fabric. Now on something like this lace, I don't have to stitch over everything, but I do want to stitch around the perimeter, particularly to hold these little delicate places in place. So I started here. I'll continue stitching around. And I take advantage of the lace itself, the little characteristics of it. So there are little holes here, and I'll just use those as my basting point. They're good spots to tack it down. And I'll continue this all the way around this butterfly and then the remaining ones. My goal is to have it nicely held in place so that it doesn't come up or buckle. So now I've stitched those butterflies down. They're part of the fabric and it looks really great. I'll continue just stitching all around the remaining pieces of lace that I have here. And then I'll show you how it looks, as well as a couple of variations using just different colored backgrounds and different lace. So I stitched all around the lace, the perimeter of all the pieces, and for the one where I doubled it up, I decided to make it abut each other so it was very close together, and it looks like it's just a thick panel of lace. So I really love the way this project came out. The back is a series of stitches. It did take me a long time because some of these stitches are very small. It's a combination of the couching stitch and just a little straight stitch, and the basting stitch for the perimeter. I wanted to show you some variations using different color backing because you get a different effect. So here's a panel done on a charcoal backing, and so there's a lot of contrast between the white lace, even this little delicate lace, and the backing. I really think this collage is quite lovely. And then I did one in red with a red backing, really shows up the hearts, but it's really quite beautiful. I think it's really extraordinary to have a series of these, all different types of lace with a different color backing. It's just so striking. So that's how I create my slow stitch lace collage. I think lace is beautiful, and using it in stitching is very fun. There are different ways to use it, but right now I'm jumping right in and focusing it, making it the main factor in this project. I really enjoyed working with it, and I hope you did too. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Be sure to follow me here on YouTube, and please consider joining me on Patreon, where I teach different art techniques, including watercolor, painting, and paper arts. Thanks for joining me today.